The courtroom was packed, yet it felt eerily silent. Lynda Randle, known to millions as a voice of hope and gospel, stood tall until she didn't. As the judge began to deliver the long-awaited sentence, Lynda's expression changed. It wasn't just nervousness, it was fear, confusion, disbelief. Her knees buckled, and right there in front of the judge, attorneys, her family, and reporters, she collapsed. The room gasped as people rushed to her side. But what caused this moment? Was it the shock of the sentence, the pressure of a tarnished reputation, or something far deeper? The answer remains as heavy as the silence that followed her fall. For decades, Lynda Randle inspired thousands with her gospel music, standing firm in her faith, family values, and service to others. She wasn't just a singer. She was a ministry, leader, a role model, and a trusted face in Christian communities. But recent events have shaken that image. Rumors began surfacing months ago, claiming irregularities in the financial reports of her charity foundation. What started as quiet speculation soon grew louder, and before long her name was linked to accusations of embezzlement, fraud, and financial mismanagement. For many, it felt unbelievable. How could someone so dedicated to faith be connected to criminal allegations? According to leaked sources and media insiders, an internal audit uncovered troubling signs. Large sums of donation money appeared unaccounted for. Allegations pointed toward money being redirected, possibly for personal use. While no official statement had come from Lynda or her legal team at the time, the rumors intensified. Speculators online claimed there was even an internal cover-up, with members of her inner circle allegedly protecting her from full accountability. As the whispers turned into national headlines, pressure on Lynda mounted. Yet throughout it all, she remained silent. A silence that only raised more questions. This wasn't just a fall from grace. It was a public unraveling. The woman who once stood before packed churches, delivering messages of hope and resilience, was now facing the harshest test of all. Her fans felt torn. Some defended her passionately, believing this to be a setup, a smear campaign, or perhaps a mistake. Others began to question whether her polished public image was masking something more troubling. Was the Lynda they admired truly the person behind the scenes? Or had the truth been hidden behind smiles, stage lights, and songs of worship? As the day of sentencing arrived, emotions ran high. Reporters flooded the courthouse. Lynda walked, flanked by her legal team, her family sitting quietly in the front row. The prosecutor presented damning evidence, altered financial records, witness testimonies, and proof of money trails that led back to her personal accounts. The judge's words echoed in the room. "You have been charged with misuse of charitable funds, deception of the public, and breach of trust." The courtroom sat still as the judge prepared to hand down the verdict. And then, it happened. Lynda collapsed before a word was even spoken, her body unable to carry the emotional and psychological burden any longer. Panic filled the courtroom. Medical staff rushed in, and Lynda was assisted to a bench while her family gathered around. Her husband, visibly shaken, held her hand. The trial was paused. Reporters were ushered out as murmurs swirled. Was she faking it? Was it a breakdown? Or had the pressure finally broken her spirit? Some witnesses said she seemed disoriented days before the sentencing. Others noted her weight loss, her silence on social media, and her apparent withdrawal from public events. For the first time, the gospel singer known for strength and grace looked completely and utterly lost. Outside the courtroom, news spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with reactions. Longtime fans voiced disbelief while critics pointed fingers. The divide was sharp between those calling for forgiveness and those demanding justice. The gospel community especially felt the blow. Was this a wake-up call about blind faith in public figures, or a cautionary tale about what happens when power, money, and ministry collide? News anchors dissected every moment of the courtroom video. Every headline seemed louder than the last. Lynda Randle breaks down during sentencing. Charity Queen faces final judgment. Back in the courtroom, Lynda sat quietly, tearful, shaken, her future uncertain. But what was even more, fragile than her legal standing was her legacy. She had built a reputation over decades, filled with faith, songs, and service. Now every good deed was being re-examined under a harsh light. For her, the most painful part wasn't just the possible jail time. It was the thought that everything she had worked for, everything she believed in, might be destroyed forever. Could she rebuild her reputation? Or was this truly goodbye? As the hearing resumed, the judge took the bench. Cameras were banned now. What followed remains unclear, with legal teams tight-lipped about the outcome. Some claim she received probation and fines. Others whisper about a prison sentence. What is clear, however, is that Lynda Randle's life will never be the same again. Whether she was guilty, manipulated, or simply careless, the damage had been done, and the world watched it happen in real time. In the world of fame, especially, where faith and money intersect, even the most admired can fall. Lynda Randle's story is a reminder of how quickly life can shift, from the stage to the courtroom, from applause to accusation. Whether this chapter ends in redemption or regret, only time will tell. But for now, the sentence has been given. And for Lynda Randle, it may just be goodbye. Forever. Lynda's mind raced, clouded with anxiety. She had spent years building her career, sharing her music, spreading messages of hope and love. And now, everything she had worked for seemed to hang in the balance. The courtroom, usually a place of quiet deliberation, felt different today. The air itself seemed thick with tension. Every breath, every effort, it all felt heavier. Lynda could feel the eyes of the gallery on her, the gaze of her family, her fans, all hoping for a different outcome. They were all waiting for one thing, waiting to hear whether she would be exonerated or condemned. What had started as whispers and rumors had become a full-blown scandal. What began as a simple accusation of financial mismanagement now threatened to unravel her entire life. In her mind, she could still hear the echoes of the allegations, the questions, the doubt. Had she really done something wrong? All of it led to this moment, and then the judge's voice rang out like a thunderclap. After careful consideration of the evidence and testimony presented in this case, the court finds the defendant guilty of embezzling charitable funds and misappropriating donations for personal use. The words pierced her like a knife. Guilty. Her heart skipped a beat. Her worst fear had come true. She had always believed in justice, believed the truth would prevail. But now, the truth felt far away, distorted. The world she had built, the trust she had earned, shattered in a matter of seconds. Lynda's hands trembled as she gripped the podium. The room spun. Voices became muffled. Tears blurred her vision as she fought to hold back the emotional storm building inside her. All her life, she had dedicated herself to lifting others. She had used her music to heal, to inspire. And now, she stood there, accused, convicted, undone. The judge's voice faded. Lynda was numb. It felt like she was floating outside her body, watching the events unfold without truly being present. Her heart pounded like a drum. Blood rushed in her ears. The crushing weight of the verdict bore down on her like 1,000 bricks. She had never felt so small, so defeated, so lost. Behind her, her family watched helplessly. Her husband, his face pale and drawn, sat with his hands clasped tightly. Her children looked on with wide, confused eyes. They had always seen their mother as a pillar of strength, a role model. And now, they witnessed her fall from grace. Lynda's heart broke, not just for herself, but for them, for the pain they would carry. They had been proud of her voice, her ministry, her unwavering values. And now she had failed them, failed herself. The court proceedings continued, but Lynda could barely stay focused. Her mind spiraled. She replayed every moment, every rumor, every accusation, every sleepless night. She thought about how quickly lies can spread, how fast trust can evaporate. She had worked so hard to build something beautiful. How had it all come to this? She knew her reputation was in ruins. No matter what she said next, people would always associate her name with scandal. No explanation could undo the damage. No defense would restore what had been lost. The public had already judged her, and their verdict was final. As the judge called for the next part of the hearing, Lynda's thoughts wandered. She remembered the concerts, the albums, the fans singing her lyrics with tears in their eyes. She remembered the power of faith, the anchor that had kept her steady. She thought of the people who still believed in her even now. She had always seen herself as someone who stood for integrity, someone who did the right thing no matter the cost. But now, the world didn't see her that way. Now, she was a woman, accused of betrayal, a fallen figure in a world that once adored her, and then the emotions overwhelmed her. Tears streamed down her face as she collapsed. Her legs gave out. Her body crumpled to the floor. Her family rushed to her side, panicked. Her husband held her gently, whispering words of comfort, but Lynda couldn't hear them. All she could hear was the sound of her own heartbreak. Everything was gone. The trust, the respect, the identity she had built. All that remained was this unbearable silence, the aftermath of a life in pieces. As the courtroom buzzed around her, Lynda's mind drifted to the past, to the woman she once was, the woman who faced hardship with faith and dignity. She had believed in second chances and redemption, but now she wasn't sure. Could she really come back from this? The fall had been deep. The blow, devastating. The road ahead uncertain, but one thing was clear. Lynda Randle wasn't ready to give up. She didn't yet know how she would move forward, but she knew she had to try. Rebuilding would take time. Earning back trust would take even longer. But she would walk that road no matter how painful, no matter how lonely, because deep inside the flame of her purpose still flickered. As she was escorted from the courtroom, time seemed to stand still. Her world had changed forever. She had been convicted, branded, broken, but something inside her refused to be extinguished. The first wave of reactions came almost immediately. Social media lit up. Her fans, many of whom had followed her for years, were stunned. Shock turned into grief. Disbelief gave way to heartbreak. How could she? Some asked. How could someone who spoke so beautifully about faith and honesty be caught in a scandal like this? Others rushed to her defense. Lynda helped me through the darkest times, one fan wrote. I don't believe she'd hurt anyone on purpose. There must be more to the story. But not everyone was so forgiving. Some demanded she step away from music forever. They felt betrayed. They said she no longer deserved the platform she once held. And her family, her husband, the man who had stood beside her through every storm, was silent. His face said everything. He was broken too. The betrayal, whether real or imagined, cut deep. Her children, who had always admired her strength, were confused and overwhelmed. Their mother had always been their moral compass. Now, they were left questioning everything. Friends and colleagues in the music industry began to speak out as well. Some shared words of compassion. Others, however, admitted the scandal had shaken them. I've known Lynda for years, one former collaborator said in an interview. I still believe in her heart, but we can't ignore what's happened. It's a reminder that none of us are above accountability. Not everyone was so diplomatic. A few declared her career over, her legacy tarnished beyond repair. They said she had crossed a line no apology could fix. And the media devoured the story. Headlines blared. Across websites and news channels, the world watched, judged, and moved on. But for Lynda, the real battle was just beginning. Victim of the system, that the accusations against her were exaggerated or fabricated. They argued that the legal system had misunderstood her intentions, that her involvement in the scandal was more about miscommunication or poor decisions than malicious intent. Lynda's music helped me through the hardest times of my life. One fan posted, "She's a strong woman, and I refuse to believe she would intentionally hurt anyone." But there were others who felt deeply betrayed. They had believed in her for so long, trusted her words, and now they felt as if they had been deceived. They questioned how someone who had spent years preaching love and integrity could end up in such a situation. The news of her convictions spread like wildfire, with countless people pouring into the comment sections, asking what had happened, why Lynda had allowed herself to get caught up in something so damaging to her image. Some were even calling for her to be removed from the stage, saying that she no longer deserved the platform she had once held. Their action from her family was equally mixed. Her husband, who had stood by her through thick and thin, was devastated. He had been her rock, her partner, the one person she had always turned to when the world became too overwhelming. He had always believed in her, and now it felt as if everything they had built together was being torn apart. He remained quiet, his face a mask of sadness and resignation as he stood by her side. No words could express the pain he felt. He was a man of few words, and this moment of silence spoke volumes. Her children, who had looked up to her as a figure of strength, were also grappling with the reality of what had happened. They had grown up in a household that valued honesty, integrity, and faith. But now their mother, the person they had admired and respected, was facing consequences that no one could have anticipated. Their own emotions were a whirlwind: guilt, confusion, and fear. They didn't know how to react, how to support her in this moment of crisis. They had always seen their mother as a role model, someone who'd never wavered in her convictions, and now they were forced to confront their reality that even the strongest people could fall. As the news spread beyond her immediate circle, Lynda's colleagues and friends in the music industry also weighed in. Many of them were deeply saddened by the turn of events, offering their support, but also expressing a sense of disbelief. "I've worked with Lynda for years and I know her heart," one longtime collaborator shared in an interview. "She's always been someone who cares deeply about others, and I can't imagine what she's going through right now. But this is bigger than just a mistake. It's a wake-up call for all of us. In this industry, we need to be more accountable." But not everyone was willing to extend the same understanding. Some saw this as the end of Lynda's career, a stain on her legacy that could never be washed away. They believed that her actions, whatever the reason, were inexcusable, and that she had lost the trust of her fans and peers alike. The media, of course, was quick to capitalize on the drama-running headlines that made the situation seem even worse than it was. The more sensational the story, the better it sold. Gospel singers fall from grace, read one headline. Lynda Randle, from worship leader to convict, shouted another.